Hi everybody. I want to talk about deadlines and constraints and a little bit in between. When you're working with your project and there are certain tasks that you know have deadlines. In other words, let's take a look at this area here. Let's say that this particular task here, task CB, it's supposed to end on 4/24. So it starts on 4/19, ends on 4/24. You've built in some wiggle room because technically you've got until about the 28th, okay? So the 28th of April is your deadline. I mean, you cannot go beyond that, or at least you need to be made aware of if it does get pushed to that. And how would it get pushed? By adding more days up here, these other tasks that will have a tendency of kind of pushing the whole staircase out. So how do we set up an indicator that will alert us to the fact that it's gone, beyond what it should? So let's just say April 30th would be the deadline. I mean, we can't go beyond April 30th, let's say, okay? So what we'll do is we point anywhere on the task, we double click it, all right? And up here in the advanced tab, we have something called deadline. And we're going to type in that deadline, which will be, let's say, April 30th. So we're going to go ahead and bring this up there, and there's April 30th, okay? That's it. Oh, I'm in the wrong one. I did the wrong one. Sorry. Well, it doesn't matter. So over here, April 30th, right there. Okay. I'm going to get rid of that. Okay. So we go ahead and hit OK. And there we go. Now, what happened is you'll see the little marker over here. All right. And if you point to it, you'll see how it kind of pops up, maybe. There we go. Well, usually will pop up there. There it is. So April 30th deadline. And let's say we'll go down just a little bit further. And on this one here, we'll set a deadline of, let's say, May 15th. Okay, right now the deadline, or it's supposed to end on 5/10, but we want to be made alert, or made aware of with an alert that is set to trigger after the 15th. All right. So again, we'll just double click here. We'll go over here to our deadline and make that May 15th. There we go. All right. So we hit OK on that one, and now we got a marker there as well. Okay, so let's go back to this task here, which kind of precedes this one here. And let's say we're going to make this one now 5 days. All right. So that means it's going to go through, I think, Monday. So we'll go ahead and enter that in. No problem. Pushes it up. All right. Now, let's say I go back and bring that up maybe another couple days. All right. Oh, I'm on the wrong one there. Bring this up a couple of days. There we go. Enter that. Now we're right on the edge of it. All right. So now if I bring that up one more day, boom. So what happens is everything got kind of pushed over. So you'll notice now that an indicator has popped up on the side here. So this one here, when you point to it, says it has a deadline of 4:30, and now it looks like it's been pushed now to 5/1. All right. And the same thing with this one here. This one has a deadline of 5:15, right? And it's now at 5:17. So I think that's a pretty easy thing to see there, that big red indicator on the side. Now, to get rid of the indicator, because maybe it turns out that we're okay still, then what you can do is just go to each one of these, just double click it, all right? And go here with the deadline and just delete out the date there, all right? Hit OK, no more indicator, everything stays in place. Double click that one, delete that, there we go. So that alarm that we just did there with the deadline is that I guess what's nice about it is that there's going to be certain tasks that you have that you just need to be made aware of if for some reason they get pushed beyond a certain deadline that you've set for each of them. So you could actually go on to a majority of your tasks and set all kinds of deadlines for each of them, and that way always be made aware when you make a change to your project. Then all of a sudden you'll see an indicator because you'll be scanning up and down the list here. Now, an alternative to the deadline that we just got done doing is something called constraints. Now, constraints are a little bit more fickle. I don't think they're as definite as having that warning popping up. So let me show you how these work, and you can kind of make up your own mind as to whether or not you'd ever want to use them. Okay, so here's our first one. Okay, we'll go down a little bit further here, and I've got this task right here. Okay, this task has a end date of 5/6 on it. I want to set up kind of like a constraint or almost like a deadline that says that I want this task to finish no later than, let's say, the 8th. Okay, so like Wednesday the 8th. All right, if later on anything changes up here that would push it beyond the 8th, then an indicator, a little window will pop up saying that whatever I just got done doing has violated the constraint on this particular task. Okay, so let's see how this works. What we'll do here is I'll double click this. All right, so double click the task there. I'll kind of bring this up so you can see it better. And right now, as I said, it's set to end on 5/6, but I want a 5/8 constraint on it. So what I want to do here is in the advanced tab, go over here where it says as soon as possible for constraint and change that to finish no later than. Okay, so finish no later than. So if I do that, all right, and I specify over here May 8th, okay, which would be Wednesday, like I said. I hit OK, and it says on here, are you sure you want to do what you're going to do? And basically I'm going to say, yeah, I do, and just continue and put that constraint in. So we hit OK, and there we go. Now, what will happen is this little indicator, little calendar thing shows up and says, this task has a finish no later than constraint of 5/8. Okay, so it's still ending on 5/6 right now. But now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go up to here. I'm going to add 2 days to this. All right, and I'll enter that in, and that's going to push things over. Now it ends up pushing this one to where now it's ending on what? On 5/8. And 5/8 is our constraint, so it's right on the edge now. So then I go maybe to this task here, and I bring that up a day to 5 days, right? Now I enter that in, and this pops up, and it says, okay, what you just did is violating, what we've got here as far as the constraint goes. So the message is basically saying that whatever you're doing is creating a conflict, all right? Now, if you leave it on cancel and just hit OK, that's fine. So let's just do that. So we'll say, okay, fine, made a mistake, hit OK, and now we're back to what we had. So it brings that back. Now, everything's all copacetic here still, right? Now, the only thing I don't like about this constraint setting is that now if I go back and try to violate it again, so let's say I go back up to here, all right? Now this is where the constraint is on this row right here, this guy right here. So I say, oh, I'm going to make this now 13 days, so 3 days more, right? So now I put that in there, right? Enter it in. I get no indicator. I get no window that pops up. So once you violate the constraint, then it doesn't alarm you after that. And what you'll also notice that it didn't move, okay? This did not move. So if I go back up here and I add 17 days, right? Enter that in, everything just kind of, it's almost like a freight train just stopping, just hitting a wall. And so the engine stays in place and the rest of the train just goes ahead. And that's what's happened over here, okay? So by setting a constraint, whatever that date is, that ends up being the anchor point where it will not go beyond that, all right? But again, what is it really saying here? It's saying that you're going to be getting done with this well after this one even starts. And the whole point is that this one doesn't start or isn't supposed to start until these guys are done. See, so I don't know. It's to me, it's something. If you set it that way, you have to kind of keep a watch on your project to make sure that you don't have these types of situations happening, right? So I think when it comes to what we've been doing up to this point, I would say that the deadline is a much better thing to have here. What this does, it just keeps everything locked into place and nothing budges, beyond that constraint date. So let's just say it is what it is, and you decide that, okay, fine, let's change the project based on this new information. In other words, get this so where it will go back to where it starts at the end of this one, right? So what do? We just go in and we take the constraint out. So we just do a double click on it, anywhere on there, go to advanced, and what we'll do here for the constraint type, we'll change that from being finished no later than to being as soon as possible. So by doing that, hit OK, then everything gets pushed out to now be where it is. And you'll notice that the constraint is gone. All right, let's look at another kind of constraint that we can do here. All right, let's look at, this looks good here. Okay, so over here, what I want to do is I want to make sure that this task here, okay, and I'll just click onto it here so you can see it, that this task here has a constraint put on it that it will start no earlier than let's say 5:25. So right now it starts on 5:31. So if anything changes up here and thus makes it pull back, I want to make sure that I get I get some sort of an indication that starting date constraint is being violated. Okay, so what do? So we'll go over here and we'll double click on to this task here, number 38, and we're going to set a constraint to being where it will start no earlier than. So start no earlier than, all right? And on here, we're going to tell it 5:25, right? Well, that's not going to be good. Let's say we'll make it 5:24, okay? So start no earlier than 5:24, all right? So there we go. Let's make it, we'll make it 5:27 we'll do, okay? We'll just change that. So 5:27. All right. All right, so I'm going to go back up to here. I'm going to bring this down by 2 days, all right? Enter that in, it pulls it back, all right? So remember, this constraint is set for 5:27, all right? So right now, we're down to 5:29, okay? Now I'm going to bring this down a couple more days. That will put us right on the edge, all right? So now we're at 5:27. Now I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and bring this down to 1 day, all right? Now I do that, what happens? Well, it pulls it back. I mean, there it is. And now I've got this big gap here. Why? Because it's got the constraint of 527, so it just stays there. And it's like, okay, so if I'm not watchful over my project, it's not even telling me that that's happened. So that's where this constraint feature, I think, kind of fails, is having that happen. So I'm going to have to be very diligent, or you'd have to be very diligent, looking through your project all the time, making sure that you're not seeing those kind of things develop, all right? And especially looking at your constraints. So your key would be to kind of scroll down your list of tasks here and look for these and see if there's any kind of violation happening yet. So then you say to yourself, well, okay, I noticed this, all right? And I'm saying to myself, well, maybe it wouldn't be that bad to have this back up and not have that constraint, given the fact that we've had such a pullback. And that way, at least, we can finish this part before the weekend and finish that kind of short, ahead of schedule type of thing. So how would we do that? How would we fix that? Well, we would just go and double click the constraint, right? And we would just set this thing to be as soon as possible, all right? And then we just go and hit OK, and that just pulls it back, and now we've got that fixed, all right? So you get the idea here, right? I can't hear you, but hopefully you do. All right. Now, another type of constraint that you can put on is one where you want the task to start on a certain date, regardless of what the relationships is forcing it. So let's just say on this particular task here, FC here, it's starting on 5/24. Now, your idea is that needs, because of whatever the special considerations, maybe because you've got certain resources that can only work certain times and so forth, or they're popular resources and you can only get them at certain times. It just turns out that on this particular one, it needs to start, let's say, on the 28th. Okay, it has to start on the 28th, right? So we're not worried about it pushing there. We want it to be there, okay? So one way of doing it would be just to go to here and change the calendar date to 5/28. See, so we're already in May here. So we'll just click onto the 28th, just like that. Your little window comes up and says, you're basically move the task to that, and you want to remove the link. It's like, no, I still want it to be linked. Okay, so then we want to go with this one here, where we move it and it keeps the link, right? So we go ahead and hit OK on that. And what happens? It pushes it, all right? And there it is, right? So there's your constraint indicator that says what it says. There it is. So what happens is if later on, let's say this particular task ends up being about 4 days, enter that in, doesn't matter, it's not going to push it. Even if I said that's going to be 5 days, all right, it's still going to now push out. But see, the problem with this is that it pushed this now. Now this is now starting on the 29th. Now look at this. It had a thing on here that said start no earlier than, see? So it wasn't, see, so by you doing it there, pushed it out there originally, or initially, but because it ended up putting in there as a start no earlier than, that doesn't mean it can't get pushed forward. All right, so if this thing was brought to, let's say, 7 days, it's still going to get pushed out. All right, so let's look at an alternative to that might work a little bit better. I'm going to go and do this one over here. Oh, bring it down. We'll just do these guys. All right, so let's try this. Let's say on this particular one here, all right, this task here. So let's say on this one, we have certain resources that can only work from Wednesday to Friday, let's say, right? So instead of being Monday to Wednesday, they can work Wednesday to Friday on it, okay? So that means that we need to make sure that this doesn't get pushed anytime past that date. and we're going to also set it for that date. So what we'll do, here's what we'll do. We're going to do a double click on the field, right, or on the task there, and we're going to go over here to the, as soon as possible, the constraint area here, and we're going to tell it that it can finish no later, it must finish on. It must finish on, right? And we change this to what? Well, it'll be 6/19, 6/21, all right? So it'll be June 21, all right? So if we do that and hit OK, all right, and tell it that we want to, well, on here it gives us two choices. We want to continue but avoid the conflict by using a finish no later. We don't want to do that. It's going to be continue, a finish no later constraint will be set. So we say, okay, that's the one we want there. Hit OK, and it pushes it out. So now let's say that something up here changes. And I think if we change this one right here, 4 days, that's this task right here. That'll push that and push all everything else, right? So if I go up here and I change this, let's say, I'll just say 8 days, okay? Enter that in. And I'm going to allow a scheduling conflict, all right? Hit OK. It does that, see? So again, I get that engine caboose effect here, where this says, nope, I'm not moving. I'm not moving. The rest of you can move, but I'm not moving. So regardless of what you do, if I go to this one here and I change this to, 9 days, no problem. That one still stays locked in. So if you want to get that where it doesn't move, then this constraint here that we did, which was a must finish on, would be the way to go. Okay? So hopefully this will kind of give you some ideas as to, setting up certain trigger points or certain alarms on your project so that you can stay on top of things and be ahead of the curve and all that. But I'm going to tell you, this is, managing your project is a tough thing. And the more tools you have to get that edge, the better. And I think, between using the constraints and that deadline tool that we have, I think between those two things, you can make anything work for you there. So appreciate you watching the video. Take care.